bureaucratic language that most Americans would have trouble seeing an immediacy in their daily lives. But if they were privy to what we hear, and you know it much better than we do because you live it, I think they'd be pretty alarmed. This is not by way of criticism of you, because you're living with the strictures of what is classified and not, but I think we have a real obligation to explain to the American people why space is a domain that matters, why the threats there are real and urgent, why they are growing in importance. So I think we all agree here that space is an important domain. Undersea warfare is an important domain, but we don't have a separate command for it. Cyber is an important domain, as my colleague and friend, the late John McCain, used to say. And so I found very persuasive, Secretary Wilson, what you said in July of 2017. I know it's been quoted to you before this morning, and others of you, the reasons for your opposition to that separate domain or the separate command for the space domain. But I would like to ask, in terms of the personnel issues that I think are of immediate concern to a lot of folks. This proposal would exempt Space Force civilian personnel from Title V rules and protections. It would create a new accepted service that is separate from the federal government competitive service or senior executive service. It would create an alarming precedent, I think, that potentially could erode the merit-based civil service within the Pentagon and eliminate the rights of Space Force employees to participate in collective bargaining, for example. There's currently no civilian workforce that is statutorily exempt from collective bargaining rights. Can you tell me, Secretary Shanahan, why that is a part of your proposal?
The Title V that you were referencing was based on the discussion we were having earlier around integration with the NRO. That's the model that they employ there. And as we think about the talent management practices that we'll need in the future, we wanted to provision for that. Much like in your reference to the undersea domain, our approach to systems engineering is the same as the Navy's undertaken. So there are a lot of examples that we're trying to draw from that have been successful. That was the nature of that insertion.
Would there be protection for whistleblowers in the same way there is throughout the rest of the government?
The baseline that we're coming off of is the existing personnel system. This was to incorporate, the ability to integrate with the NRO. So I would, I'd have to go back, sir. I'd have to go back and confirm that for you. But
if you would, that would be appreciated.
You bet.
Because based on this proposal, the Secretary of Defense could terminate any Space Force employee, quote, in the interests of the United States, end quote, and as drafted it says, notwithstanding any other law, which leads me to think that they would be exempted from a lot of other protections of law and could simply be dismissed whenever you determine it's in the interest of the United States.
Yeah, let me go back and confirm that that's not our interpretation.
My time has expired. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, but I think there are essentially, and I have a lot more, and I'm going to submit them for the record, a lot more questions than answers here. And as others have remarked, each of you has raised objections or reservations or questions in the past, the very recent past, about this idea, which I'm not sure have been fully addressed here. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of Chairman
off Senator Warren, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we're here today to examine a proposal to set up a Space Force within the Air Force. And before we haul off and authorize spending billions of dollars on this, I just want to ask a couple of questions about what problem this Space Force is supposed to solve. So let me start with you, Chairman Dunford. Is it correct to say the Department of Defense has proposed a Space Force because the U.S. is at risk of losing its competitive advantage in space, and our space assets, including critical satellites, are becoming increasingly vulnerable?